We can come to order. Everybody's here, so I guess we. Yeah, no. Okay. So we each have to say our name, right? So Catherine McGill. Megan Richards. Yeah.
Paul Heupel.
Steve Waltz,
Nona Chariello.
Yogi Zimmerman,
Miriam Plunder.
Teresa Coleman.
And we all are coming to order now. Okay, are there any oral communications?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, our guest is, we have Sarah Gilbert and Kim Giulacci from the Woodside Fire Department. Okay, you have, I think.
Yeah, I just
Marianne.
wanted to briefly bring something up which would possibly be an agenda item if the committee thinks it makes sense. I was reading, there was something on the forum a few days ago about coyotes and that the coyotes are coming so close to the house, da, 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 da. And from my experience, what I am noticing is I have these islands of underbrush, and that's where the rabbits live. And because I have rabbits back in the backyard and what have you, the coyotes do not come to the house. Now, this is just my observation, but if that's something that makes sense, then maybe we should put that on the agenda and maybe we can help people by taking their fear of maybe the predators, but also motivating people for having islands of underbrush. Because if you go through Westridge, there's no underbrush, nothing, it's just weed whack. So I just wanted to bring that up. And if there's a consensus, we can put it on the agenda.
No underbrush, but I do have rabbit and coyotes.
And bobcats. They do.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that is going to come up with the fire department discussion is islands of vegetation.
Right. It's also in there. Yeah, it goes hand in hand.
Okay. So I think now we have a guest speaker or guest person to have a discussion with us about the potential about the fire department issues. This is she's I believe new with the Woodside Fire Protection Department. So Kim, do you want to speak up?
Yes. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Kim Giulacci. I'm a fire inspector with Woodside Fire. Just a little introduction about myself. I came from Menlo Park Fire. I was there for 6 years. And prior to that, I was with Central County Fire for another 5 years. So new to the Woodside Fire District and new to this new WUI development, because in both departments I worked at before, they were not in a WUI area at the time. Menlo Park still isn't in one, but Central County has some areas now. But anyway, I also do, other than inspections here with Woodside, I'm one of the plans examiners and one of the fire investigators as well. Also a licensed paramedic and a drone pilot. So just a little bit, quick little background on myself. I'm here today to discuss I'm taking Don's place today. He's actually, tonight was the board meeting, so he's there. And then I said I could help out and do this and answer questions and join in the discussion that you were supposed to have with him today. So happy to do so and happy to meet you all.
Thank you. So I think one of the things that we would like to talk about as a conservation committee is some of the brush clearing. I think that's coming up as an issue as we especially this wet winter, we have a lot of very tall grass. And so do you want to talk maybe a little bit about that and how the
Sure.
new ordinances fit in?
Sure, what I was thinking of doing was just, I don't know if it would be easier. I can also share my screen. Would that help so that you could actually see what the proposed ordinance is going to be? It's still in draft form and still needs to have attorney approval, but at least we can go over some of the information that you're inquiring about, as well as the definitions to help better understand. I do have some footnotes as well from Dawn, because being that all of you have so much a variety of knowledge on things, maybe you can also help shed some light on some other things that we should be including within our ordinances. So let me go ahead and share the screen if that's okay with all of you.
Great.
Okay. Let me go here. Can you all see my screen?
You're not expecting us to be reading this, right?
No. I'm not at all. I'm just putting up there just for a visual, but I'm just going to quickly run through the most important parts, which your question would address some of your questions. So this first ordinance is it's been renamed from defensible space to now it's called establishing fuel mitigation and exterior hazard abatement standards. And this applies in all state and local responsibility areas within the district. So all this is just, verbiage, jargon, stuff that kind of applies within all our ordinances. But the main things that I want to bring your attention to, which is the things that would be more applicable, is the first thing. Go into my notes here. So here under applicability, this is where it would apply. So this ordinance establishes fuel mitigation and exterior hazard abatement standards in all state and local responsibility areas within the district. So this is just the basic, the rest just expands in more legal terms, but that's basically what this is going to be applicable within the ordinance. And what I wanted to pull to your attention is, so combustible material. So throughout the ordinance, when things are referred to combustible material, that would be anything that burns except other than, he has classified here, hazardous vegetation, which let me bring you to that definition because that's very specific. And that just helps understand what he means by what is meant by hazardous vegetation, which is vegetation that is combustible and endangers the public safety by creating a fire hazard, including but not limited to bark, mulch, seasonal and recurrent grasses, weeds, stubble, non-irrigated brush, dry leaves, dry needles, dead, dying, diseased trees, or any other vegetation identified by the fire code official. So within the ordinance, when we go, we'll quickly run through the most important things that would be applicable. And please, at any time, if there's questions, please stop me so I can, if you need me to further explain anything. The other new definition that is going to be within here is also for people to understand that there are two things. There's a fire break and a fuel break. And we want to make sure that those two terms are not confused. A fire break is completely different. A fire break, as is defined here, is a continuous strip of land upon and from which all vegetation has been removed to bare mineral soil. So during a fire, this is what would be clear to create our fire break to keep the fire contained in an area without jumping to other areas. Now, there has been a detailed breakdown on fuel break. And this definition is a strategically located block or strip on which a cover of dense, heavy, or hazardous vegetation has been changed to one of lower fuel volume or reduced combustibility as an aid to fire control. And there's a little bit of a list of what that includes when there's a fuel break and the requirements that will be enforced. One of which is that the grass and weeds cut less to 3 inches, and it has to be done by June 1st of every year. There'll be a removal of hazardous vegetations, form of surface fuels. This here is something that he wanted me to ask all of you, and we can go, as we go through this, maybe you can be thinking about this. He added this in here, but Dawn was looking for a way to describe this better, but it was removal of non-irrigated and or non-native brush. And this is where he's kind of hung up on if all of you can think of maybe some other things to describe this better, be better descriptive or an understanding way. But it include brush and vines such as broom, coyote brush, cypress, juniper, and poison oak. So he was looking for any feedback or recommendations of maybe adding or taking out anything listed within this area here. Then the rest is pretty much the normal things that we've been used to for years. The trimming of trees with the 6-foot vertical clearance, the ladder fuel removal, the dead dying trees. He's got them very well described that it's in zone 2 or beyond with the 12-inch diameter. So this just lists those specifics there, not too much difference there. Moving on to the next area, he wanted to make, yes.
Just a quick question. You said
Sure.
the limiting up to 6 feet. Did that publication that came out last week, I think it said 10 feet. And I was curious about that. It seemed discrepant from what we had understood previously.
That absolutely would be discrepant. And what literature was that in? So I can take a
Was
look
in
at that.
brochure that got sent to every resident.
Oh, with the
Woodside-
chipping program?
I don't know.
No, it was a multi-page thing that came from the Woodside Fire Protection.
I'll
District.
have to look into
District.
that.
And it had some diagrams in it that I found a little problematic also.
My husband
Okay.
read it to me and mentioned that 10-foot thing because it was different than we had noticed.
Yes, that is different. So it's literature that was sent out. And now where it said for the firebrands and as well as the limbing up of trees, was that in kind of like a picture graph style or was it actually written words? Because I want to make sure I find the right literature of the mailers that went out.
I don't
It's
know,
like a
because
small, it was like a 6-page magazine.
I didn't, my husband read it to
pictures.
me, and so I don't know what he was looking at.
Okay,
came
but
in
it
the
was
mail.
literature.
It came
Okay,
in the mail last week.
We all received it.
Yeah.
okay.
Let's
Okay.
go on, sorry.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it to my attention. I want to make sure we review that and see what the contradictions there. Okay. Let's see, okay, so the next area he wanted to make sure that I reviewed with you is something he did add with the fuel mitigation requirements. And this was a note because this is going to talk about what's going to be required in the local and the state responsible area. But it was this that he added where it says Woodside Fire Protection Districts understands that this ordinance will require much time, energy, and resources, especially on large properties, and that owners will not be cited for non-compliance with the ordinance if they can show evidence of substantial progress toward compliance within the past year as determined by the fire code official. Because of all the changes that are going to be coming into this ordinance, he wanted to make sure that we can work with property owners where we can set up a plan so it's not something that's so overwhelming, but we can tackle, be working through each zone at a time and try to assist in making progress to get to the final what the goal would be of the ordinances. Because now this being new, we understand the impact that it's going to take on a lot of people. So he added that notation there. Next, going into the zone 0. This is something that is new. All native and non-native plant species within 5 feet of a structure or attached deck must be maintained such that foliage, twigs, and branches create a minimum 1 foot clearance above the ground or ground cover. So in this section, we wanted to make clear that we're not telling people they can't have any vegetation in the 0 to 5 foot zone, the 0 zone from the structure. but there are requirements that go along with the plants that you are going to have within those 5 feet. So we wanted to make that clear and understanding so people don't think, oh my gosh, they have to tear out every plant they have. So this gives guidelines on what you can and can't have. The next area under zone 0 is here. This is where Dawn was asking for assistance as well, which we went over in the definition, but this non-irrigated and or non-native brush is not permitted. He's just looking for some guidance to see if there's something that you would all recommend or see if maybe making this more understanding, more descriptive, maybe changing the wording. So again, this is looking out to you for any comments or feedback for this.
What's the timeline for getting our feedback?
The timeline would be within the next month.
Well, the one thing that immediately comes to my mind, if it's native, it doesn't need irrigation.
Right.
So that is sort of a contradiction in terms. But it
Well, he
needs-
put non-native.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, and I don't know if he's leaving it in red or not, but it kind of just helps stand out, and or non-native brush is not permitted. Okay, moving on into,
Or, it says or, not and.
yes, and or.
Is it clear that non-irrigated natives can stay?
It does
Why?
not, yeah, it does not say, it just says what cannot be permitted.
Right,
So
but
again,
it's a
that could
little-
be
it's a little
information.
ambiguous.
That would be great feedback from all of you to put together and that's why I think he's struggling with trying to figure out the best way to state what he's trying to state here.
I don't, Kim, I don't think he is intending to say that natives are not allowed there. Because I remember I was involved in all that text 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes,
So we'll look into it, but it's just not clear. And I'm pretty sure natives, if they are low, they are allowed there. So maybe the text just needs to be clarified.
yes, I definitely agree because the double negative is can be confusing. And I'll comment that for him as well. Then in zone 1, something new that's coming in is the propane gas storage tanks. So this is going to require combustible materials surrounding it. There should be 10 feet of bare mineral soil and no hazardous vegetation is permitted within 20 feet of the propane storage tanks, firewood, lumber, or other combustible material. The only exception is, so let's say you have, redwood or, trees that have been there for 30, 40 years, then the only thing with those would be just to keep the ladder fuels clear from it. And he has it stated here 6 feet above the ground. So it's not to remove the trees, but just anything else that's around it, any other lower fuels to have those cleared.
So aside from existing trees, you have to have 10
Ex-
feet of bare dirt.
Exactly.
And how many
I-
propane tanks do we have in town anyway? I mean,
No,
Really?
we have a lot.
oh, sorry.
I'm just thinking about
Little
the
do I know.
aesthetic issue of that. All the things with no screening at all. And
In-
put up a screen 10 or, is it 10 feet or 20 feet? 10 feet bare ground and then up to 20 feet. You can't see the material that you have, so you just have to say it again, sorry.
We don't have a copy of this,
You
so
don't-
we're,
yeah, I was
so
thinking-
we're just listening to you. We
Don't
don't
copy.
know what it says.
And I did ask when it is going to be, when this is going to be. So once this passes attorney approval, it will become public. So everybody has access and you'd be able to view it. But for now, this is just in the draft form, but It was just to make notation. That's why the important things I wanted to highlight to you all. And then to get any comments and feedback so far of the main big changes that would affect the community.
So Kim, is there no way that we can get at least the paragraphs that you want us to comment on so that we can see those, so that we can?
That's a good idea. What I could do is I could take, I could take bits and pieces of the parts to comment and send it to you all.
Yeah, send it to the chair and she'll distribute it to us. And
Who do I send it to?
You can send it to me, Catherine McGill.
Catherine McGill.
that way we
Okay.
can have a subcommittee and we can actually look at it with some care and, and pay attention to the language and, with enough detail to be helpful to you rather than just tell you now kind of.
Right, yes.
What's the deadline for wording? What's the
It,
deadline?
the deadline would be, so by May 25th,
Oh, okay, that's
So it's your
great.
next board meeting, basically?
right before our next board meeting, yes.
Got it. So we then don't have a full month to work on it, bring it back to this committee and get it approved. So we'll have to have it. We'll work
And
on-
I'll talk to Dawn more about that too, so that I can get better clarity on that and get back to you on that.
Well, actually, we could have a brief special meeting to approve something like that, because this is pretty important. We could have a meeting like on the 23rd, just for that, a Zoom meeting.
Or we can empower the subcommittee. to do it
Well,
and
No,
send it
no,
to-
this is important. This is important. Okay, we can make it work.
Okay.
I would thinking it would be helpful to have some clarification on the process, because I thought that there was normally public comment allowed between each of the readings. And I thought there had been some confusion about whether there was a first reading and a second reading already, or whether this actually has only had a first reading. So could you give us the timeline, the sort of bigger timeline that this fits into?
Correct. So once this is approved by the attorneys, we're looking at it having the reading at the next board meeting, excuse me, and then from there, open it up for public comment for 30 days.
So that's the first reading.
Thank you very much. That's really
Okay.
helpful.
And then, so then the attorney looks at it again, presumably with.
Yeah.
any
Correct.
changes, yeah.
Kim, as you go on, would you mind setting the page to fit the width of the screen?
Absolutely.
Ah, great.
Oh, that helps
Thank
a lot.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. So you're not straining your eyes.
Now we can do it before we can do this.
Okay, so now moving into zone 2, the 30 to 100 feet. This was an area where he added this as requested by Nona. He couldn't remember Nona's last name, but I notated somebody by the name of Nona had commented, and so he added this section here. Single specimens of dead trees in zone 2 or beyond with trunk diameters of 12 inches or greater, with only major limbs remaining that are of likely benefit to wildlife, will be allowed at the discretion of the fire code official. So that was just a notation that got added in. Moving into the roadside. Pretty much the other stuff is the basic stuff that everyone's used to, but now with roadside vegetation. He has a deadline here of December 31st, 2023. He's going to change that to 2024, given the time frame of the ordinance still not being adopted, to give people more time. Rather than enforce it by the end of this year, it's going to be enforced by the end of next year. But it's pretty much about for all people who own or possess interest or easement obligation interest in or control of any parcel within the district that abuts a fire apparatus access road or driveway shall. And it lists all the requirements from there. And maybe this is what you saw. Remove all hazardous vegetation that is within 10 feet.
That's what you saw.
No.
Oh, okay, anyway.
Oh, not, okay. I was just
No.
thinking maybe this is where the 10 feet came
No,
from.
I've seen that one too, but.
Okay, okay, so this was different, okay. But anyway, it's horizontally and 5 feet measured horizontally from edge of any driveway. So you could see these are the new, I don't know, and again, so this is new for me reading this. I don't know if this is something that was in place as far as the measurements go, for sizing. But I know that it's being added to the ordinance so that it can be enforced.
So Kim, if we look at number 1, which we can read now, remove all hazardous vegetation. So if I have in that 5 feet left and right of my driveway, some blue flowers, which are irrigated, they are not hazardous material, I can keep them.
You can keep them, yeah. And that, so the hazardous vegetation would be everything that's described here under the definition, which is basically the bark, the mulch, the seasonal and recurrent grasses, weeds, stubble, non-irrigated brush. This would be the things that would need to be removed.
Can you
So
put
it's
that
anything-
paragraph- Will you put
Yeah.
that paragraph on what you send us to? cut and
Yes,
paste
I
out?
will. I'll make sure that the definitions are in there because the definitions definitely help with better information, I feel, for what is laid out within the ordinance. Okay,
Before you
then we,
go, I'm sorry, can you go?
No
to
problem.
point two? Ensure that all portions of any tree overhanging, now, what about public right of way?
public right of way, that's a good question. I'll have to ask Dawn about that. I
Because
believe
when-
I believe he's going to have it required be the 15 feet as well and keep it consistent as opposed to the traditional 13.6 that it used to be. But let me ask him that question.
Because that, in my opinion, that the public right of way is overhanging the road is a much bigger issue than
Oh, no,
driveways. and
yes,
driveways.
Yes,
So this paragraph or section applies to every lot in town. Some of the earlier stuff applied to the large lots, right? But this one applies to every little lot in town.
yeah,
Mostly it is right of way, but mostly what's in front of us is right of way. But then we're talking about driveway all the way up to the house where the fire truck might need to go.
Kim, do you think you should have a point in there that actually addresses the public right of way?
I
Is this-
believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'll double check, but I believe in our fire code ordinance for fire department roads, it's stated in there. Because this only applies to SRA and LRA, but it doesn't, but our fire code, which is a separate ordinance, because there is a section on fire department access, but it's also fire department roads, so it's not just driveways, it also includes the right of ways. There is information in there that's been changed, so I will double check to make sure see how consistent that is or what it even states.
It may be that all persons include the legal definition of person. So the town's.
No, it
obligation
talks
of the
about
right of way.
driveway, it talks driveway.
No, along roads and driveways.
Fire department access road.
Yeah, the
I
access
think-
roads are a little different from the from public
road is
way
different.
right of ways. It is
Different
different,
than
yeah.
Driveways, but
Yeah.
isn't any road the fire truck goes down is a fire apparatus access road.
Well,
correct?
just given how much public right of way has trees that are flammable and that they're overhanging the road, I think it would be a good idea if that would be in the ordinance.
Right, and that's so I'll raise that issue up as part of it's a good concern to overlook because as I've been new driving around, I've noticed that as well. The next area would be the conflicting requirements. So this is just a quick note of saying, of course, anything that is already in the fire code or anything that conflicts in any other code, the more stringent will will take precedence over that code. So it'll apply, and then it'll, as determined by the fire code official. This area is one that he wanted to make sure that I reviewed with you. This is the environmental concerns, and he wants to make sure that this is being expressed properly and correctly, and if there's anything else that should be added in here. So now that you can all, I'll let you all read it, but now that you can see this section. But it basically says compliance with the fuel mitigation requirements of this ordinance shall not result in the taking of endangered, rare, or threatened plant or animal species, significant erosion or sedimentation of surface waters. Exceptions will be made for every specific sensitive habitat locations, marshlands, creek banks, a minimum of 50 feet from any riparian corridor and single specimen trees as determined by the fire code official. When these or other conditions make it impractical to comply with the fuel mitigation requirements, the person who owns, leases, has easement obligation interest in, or controls a parcel or parcels shall request that the fire code official grant a modification of the requirements.
We'll have to think about that.
Yeah, it's a very loaded paragraph, but again, that's also going to be one that I include in the information for you to have some time to discuss. And that is the, yes.
If I could jump in for a second, I think that that clause on exceptions used to also apply to conservation areas. And so I think the big change relative to the last ordinance is dropping that term.
Conservation areas,
So
okay.
It used to read conservation areas, sensitive habitat, marshland, creek banks, and a minimum of 50 feet from any riparian corridor are designated exceptions to fuel reduction requirements.
So that was watered down.
So this is dropping conservation areas from the exceptions to the fuel reduction requirements.
Okay. So this is in
Conservation
G.
areas are subject to fuel reduction.
Okay, well, that's actually a good thing. Windy Hill,
Depends on the
Yeah.
definition of conservation.
Conservation areas, yeah.
but Windy Hill could use some. data. In an earlier version that was shared with us, there were some requirements for, and I'm gonna bungle the definition here, whether it's a fuel break or a fire break, creation of, I think it was 100-foot fuel breaks for properties of 1 acre or larger. Perimeter.
That's in the next ordinance that I'm just about to pull up for you. So this one is only, this is not, this one specific, there's a different ordinance for fuel breaks on parcels. That's where that would answer your question there. So let me bring that one up because that's the end of this. This is just date of effect and all that kind of stuff, all that legal stuff. So let me bring up the other one.
This is not fuel breaks on parcels,
No, that one is a different,
right? So what's? this
that one
What's
is
the title?
called, yeah, the title of this one is, this is establishing fuel mitigation and exterior hazard abatement standards. So it's basically defensible space, but the wording has been changed a little bit, has been changed to this. But I believe the old ordinance called it defensible space and
Well, I
fuel
have-
mitigation.
I have kind of a sample piece in mind of a very challenging condition for fuel management with native habitat that would apply both to this ordinance and to the fuel break discussion that sounds like we're about to have, which is, a case like a relatively small property where there's a slope maybe with chamise on it that is a significant habitat, but is within 100 feet of the house. Wondering how the district would handle a site like that. How can we provide clear instruction so that homeowners know that they don't need to clear and destructively grind down all of the vegetation on this slope, causing erosion and other invasion by other invasive plants.
That's a good question. I'm notating some of that down. so that we can review and give you a good answer for that. Frankly, I am not, I don't know how to answer that because looking at, so that's for what you're discussing now. This, let me bring it up. So there are the requirements as. I need to just shrink my screen a little bit. What you're referring to, let me just get to it. This is not a long document at all, but that's all the same legal stuff that was in the other ordinance. Definitions.
You may need to share your screen again with those.
Oh, do I need to reshare again? Okay. Let me stop and restart again. How's that?
Can you go to the top so we see the number?
Yes, absolutely. And this is adopting requirements for fuel breaks on parcels in both state SRA and LRA. But this is the section that would talk about where that fuel break is required. Oh, lost it. Here it is. Okay. So here's the fuel break requirements. This actually, yeah, that's the same as the other ordinance, but this is what, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if this is what your question is pertaining to for the sizes of your parcels and acreage. But this is where the ordinance is stating giving that 50-foot clearance around the entire perimeter of the parcel. So is this one where your question is asking how are people going to be able to accomplish this?
I think what is different, at least in my understanding, in the past, there was a fuel break in the front and there was a fuel break in the back. And now it seems to be the fuel break has to be on all four sides. And I sent something into Dawn along those lines because in the smaller hillside parcels, like on my street, the houses are down at the bottom. And if we have to do a fuel break 50 feet around left and right and front, we have lots of land in the back. Then there is no screening between the houses. Do we have to take the oaks out? So there, I don't understand. If you could clarify what your intention is and what we need to do.
Okay. Yeah, that would probably help what this means. Does this mean like everything removed or does it just mean the usual, you know, how you're limbing up everything, how everything gets, so that's a good question. Let me put that to him.
Because ladder fuel, that is no problem. But if the vegetation has to come out, then we would just stare at each other's houses. And I don't think that's something we want to
And
do.
I don't think that's what I honestly don't think that is the goal, because here, when you look at the fuel break standards, it's not listing all of that, like your trees would still be there. It's not saying anything of removing any trees. So this is specifically what it means to create that fuel break. These are the specific guidelines.
Are those guidelines the same as for defensible space within 100 feet?
Yes, yeah, this is, it's the same thing that they listed. Now they've just listed it here to be the same. Now it'll be all around the outer portion of your house, creating that 50-foot break or that 100-foot break, depending on your acreage.
So there's a lot of overlap between the two, which is actually fine because it's good to have
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah,
carefully defined.
he was trying to keep the overlap, but also to maintain the consistency across both so that it wouldn't be confusing to homeowners.
Right. I think the concern that I heard in the community a couple of months ago when this first was glimmered around was that people thought you were talking about basically a fire break. 50 feet fire break.
Yes, you are.
At each property line, which is untenable.
Oh, yeah,
Talking
no,
about-
that's a
about fire
huge,
breaks. You're talking about fuel break.
correct. Yeah, because that would be two completely different things. The fire break and the difference with the fuel break, which was important why he made sure that both were very distinguished in the definitions to help guide and for people to understand it better.
Yeah, and actually, if I look now at this, if it is irrigated, it's fine. Right? I
Correct,
mean,
correct.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
correct.
So that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But 100 feet of non-irrigated native plants around a property like this would be huge. That's a huge number.
It's actually not that huge. You know, my property, it's from, well, it's from the street halfway up the driveway. It's not,
Right.
100 feet is not that much. Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
It's
yeah,
not-
yeah. I mean, and our property, for instance, 100 feet in is forest. And it would be impossible to remove non-irrigated vegetation from 100 feet around the perimeter of that.
I don't think he means that, because if you would
That's-
remove the native vegetation from the side yards, that would be a complete new,
Yeah, so that wording still needs to be worked
Right,
on.
and it could probably say removal of non-irrigated, non-native brush.
exactly.
Without the and/or, because that's really confusing. What you want to get out is all the non-natives that are not irrigated.
Like
Yeah.
coyote brush. That's it.
Is there a definition of non-irrigated brush in this document?
Let me see. Good question. No, I did not see one there. That would probably be a good thing to add in there. Just to make that clear. No,
Well, we could help you with that wording.
yeah, that would be, and that's exactly what we were hoping to get from all of you is to get some feedback on some better wording for what the intent is here.
Yeah, we'll do this because this is quite important.
Okay, and then the last piece of this fuel break requirement, so we had the acres. The last pieces of this was if you have multiple continuous parcels. So, you own 4 parcels all next, side by side next to each other. You can treat that as one whole property. And the fuel break would be 100 feet around the perimeter of that whole area, not each parcel separately. But as long as it's owned by the same person, it can be treated as a single parcel.
And that
And-
basically said that everything that's less than 10 acres, it's only 50. Not 100 feet.
This was voted on. So
And yes,
one last question. These multiple parcels, irrelevant how many houses are on those.
irrelevant. It's just the parcels. Correct. And then here's the section again, the environmental concerns. So again, it's the same verbiage that was in the defensible space ordinance. And I've already noted the conservation areas that was removed. And I'm going to bring that up to Don so that he can look at that. And then just to also bring the last thing to your attention is there has been adopted, it was adopted in November of last year, is a citation process. I don't know if anybody has been aware of that, but that's also an ordinance that's already been adopted. So there is a process that can be utilized, and that'll also be, that's also going to be made public. So it'll be on our website so that people have an understanding what that means. I can show you that if you'd like to see that, or if you like.
You
but
can
it's-
send it to us.
Okay, that's easy. I can send it.
So I would
Okay.
say, thanks, really appreciate your bringing this to us. It's really nice to be included. The earlier we can be included, the better. I think it represents enormous progress from 4 or 5 years ago when these things were first being formulated, and the way they read really required almost clear cutting of everything except the trees, and was devastating in terms of what might happen in terms of erosion and the regrowth of nasty grasses fast, that so that a year later you ended up with a worse fire situation than the one you
Than
started.
what you started with, yes.
In the name of fire mitigation. So I think the cooperation, it mostly happened on the fire committee, really, but the cooperation between the fire department and our concerns about habitat and plants and the aesthetics of the town. It's been really good to see the melding of the approaches. So I think we have something very workable in the middle that accomplishes what both sides want largely.
Oh, yeah. Well, we thank you. We really appreciate the support and the feedback from all entities, because we want to, at the end of the day, it's a common goal. We're all trying to make sure that the town stay the beauty that it's known for, but also protecting its lands and the people within it. And at the same time, keeping that level of safety and that structure, survivability, and everything else that goes with it. So it definitely is, it's a common goal, but it's nice to have feedback and working together, these partnerships and relationships with everybody, because we do need each other's support to make this all work.
Can I bring up another item just while we have you here? How many inspectors are there in the organization that work in the town of Portola Valley?
We have 3.
There's a fair amount of variability that I don't know who's who, but I've heard there's one real hard-nosed person. who says, get rid of all of it.
I don't know who
Is
that
it
will,
all back?
so I don't know who that is, but as far as the fire inspectors go, there are 3 of us. We do have in the summer months when we're doing the defensible space inspections, we do bring in 2 more. One is our intern who's been here for a long time, who's been helping out with getting these done, and as well as a retired firefighter. So we're between all of us, we get these inspections done during the defensible space inspection times. And like I said, I'm new, so I make the 3rd person.
I think it was one of the temporary commissions that I heard that about, but the sense was that there wasn't.
Oh, I would love to know who, I would love to know who
congruity.
that is in the future.
Part of what you were doing to make sure there was consistency between the various people.
And that's what we want to make sure we keep, for sure. If you have any more questions? Well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting us to your meeting tonight. It was nice to see you all. Hope to one day meet you all in person.
We have questions.
Okay.
Mary, I think.
Can you
have to
hear
go to
you?
the
Might need to
microphone.
use the mic, sorry. I don't, but that's a good question.
I hope one of you can repeat it because I could not hear the question at all.
That may not be Mary.
I think the question is, come to the front.
She was asking, let me just paraphrase.
So the question is, are the 22-2 and 22-3 related to 23-2 and 23-3?
I do not know the answer to that. I'm going to assume they were the old ones, and these are going to be the new ones that are going to be replacing it when it gets adopted.
what's the timeline from when these are adopted by the fire district and when they need to be adopted by the town?
Hi, Mary, Don Bullard. I just got out of our board meeting. Hi, how are you doing, everybody? Hope you guys had a good meeting. Hello. The timeline on that is unknown at the moment because we still need to go over it with legal. And we're currently working on the fire code, and that's the priority right now. Once the fire code is, well, we're going to be working on them both at the same time, but depending on how many changes we need to make, I would hope that these would be in place by the end of July. That's my hope, that's my vision. But depending on how many changes need to be made, I don't expect many changes. So we're looking at hopefully no later than the end of July.
So Don, you can probably answer that question. So then at that date, is 2202 and 2203 old and invalid? And over.
So let
taken
me,
by-
currently right now, none of them are in effect. These are new ordinances, 2203 and 20 and I'm sorry. What is it? 2303.
Oh, 3. These are the new ones.
Yeah, 2303 and 2304. Those are both brand new ordinances. So those have not been in effect. We don't,
Question
No,
is, are
that's
they
not the
re-
question. The question is, once 2302 and 03 or whatever is in effect, do they then override 2202 and 2203?
there is no 2202 and
Last
2203.
year, the ones that were. So they
No,
were
no,
they were
those-
just placeholders? that never were adopted?
That was an initial, and what we did is we brought, after public comment and public review, what I did is I brought it back and I made some changes and I split that up. And I took that one document and I made it into two. So both 2303 and 2304 used to be in November, one document. And then I chose to break up that document and then have one for fuel mitigation and exterior hazard abatement standards, and the other one is for fuel breaks. So we split them up.
Great, thank you. So those were just drafts in the beginning.
Yeah,
of the
those were just
process.
drafts. Yeah, those were never anything that was adopted and ratified or anything like that. So that draft from November now exists in two different ordinances. One is 2303 and the other is 2304. And there's still, what I wanted to explain to you tonight was that these ordinances are still a work in progress, but I still wanted to share it with you to let you know, what our vision is with these and how we are looking at moving forward in the future.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. I said just before you rounded the corner that we really appreciate being involved along the way rather than sort of after it's all done and, almost out of the oven and then saying, what do you think?
Yeah, I appreciate, this is kind of part of our outreach. I wanted to, because you're one committee that I really want to get some feedback from, because this is kind of your wheelhouse and how you handle things for, landscapes and that kind of stuff. So I really wanted to get some of your feedback and hear what you had to say. And I know Kim had mentioned a couple of sections where I thought, it would be good to get some feedback from this committee to hear what you had to say about it. So it would help me develop these ordinances.
Don, the one last question we were bringing up was, you talk a lot about access roads and trees overhanging driveways, but there is nothing about trees overhanging from the public right of way. Is that somewhere else?
Well, the only thing that needs to happen in the public right of way for trees is that they need to be 13 feet, 6 inches of clearance, vertical clearance for any vehicles. So it's what we're looking at in the public right of way is cleaning the underbrush, what we call surface fuels, the hazardous vegetation that's along the side of the roadway, that's what we're focusing on.
So do these ordinances apply to the right of way? The definitions of what you want out and what?
Only,
are the same?
only on 20, yeah, the roadside vegetation, which is on page 12 of ordinance 2023-03. Roadside vegetation, that's where it applies. And that's 10 feet on, on either side of the roadside. And then that's gonna be 15 feet in vertical distance above the roadway for emergency vehicle access and large trucks and that kind of thing. That's what's required.
That applies to all the right of ways.
Yes.
And will that be defined somewhere? Because that's going to be a huge job to do that.
Well, no, we maintain that now. The fire code requests 13 feet, 6 inches. That's maintained now. On the roadways.
So all these eucalyptus trees that are then maybe 1 inch further back, they are not part of that. Or the pine trees along Cervantes and what have you.
The pine trees along Cervantes, yeah, they're part of that, but they need to be limbed up 6 feet from the ground. So that's the only part of that that needs to happen. Unless it's a dead pine tree, then it has to be removed. Or if the town decides that it's a hazardous tree that they want to remove, then they can do that too. If it's going to be on a hazardous tree list.
Okay.
I was
Well,
wondering
thank you.
if you could give us your general impression of how the inspections are going so far.
For our prevention staff,
The
inspections are going
property
well.
inspection.
We're using a new app called Fireside. And we're able to capture a lot of data that we can keep now. And so that's going to provide us with information in the future on different properties. It's helping us to get through our inspections faster because it generates a report for us. So when we get back to the station after going through and doing our inspections, we just we leave a door hanger at the residence with a code on it, and then they log into a website and provide the code, and then the report is automatically generated for the homeowner. And then what they can do is they can look at the pictures in the inspection, and they can see where the violations exist. And then what they can do is they can self-report back to the district. We don't have to go back out and do a reinspection. They can self-report back to the district that they've taken care of the issue by providing us a picture showing the correction. So it's very effective, very efficient. It's very much time saving for my staff. And we can focus on completing more inspections rather than having to go back and do re-inspections.
Do you have a sense of how many properties are passing and how many need to sort of clean up their act?
Oh, yeah. Well, we just started this year, so it's a little early to give you any of that data, but in a month or two, I would be able to provide that. Yeah. But I think for the most part, we do have, we have good compliance in the district. And for the ones that we haven't had compliance with, we have better tools now to try to get that compliance. Now we have an administrative citation, and we have a little bit more teeth to get people's attention that we're taking this seriously.
Great. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna let you guys go for the evening because I just got a phone call that I have one of my kids at home needs to go get checked out. He hurt himself during track practice today, so I got to go get him down and get him checked out. So feel free to email me if you have any further questions. I'm happy to answer those for you guys. You have my email, and I look forward to working with you on these ordinances. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Okay.
Greg, yes, you can ask. She's still here.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yes, yes, we would definitely like to ask for public comments at this point.
Yes.
Yes. Would you?
Self-serving question.
This is great.
No, it's okay.
If you don't mind me, I'll just sit here. So I would ask that somebody check in with the Sequoias, because I think they need to do 0 to 5 feet clear cut. I mean, because I've been getting a bunch of feedback from the Sequoias recently, and I said, I don't think that's what the fire marshal's asking for. And they're like, oh, no, we were told. So
No, so we have been working with Sequoias. That's been a challenging group to work with because lots of different people are wanting and saying multiple different things. Our deputy fire marshal, Marshall Hurd, he's been out there multiple times meeting with the actual facilities director to give them the guidance of what needs to be done. But still a lot of people who are part of that community, it's been a difficult challenge to convey to them what the 0 to 5 feet zone is, and that they can keep vegetation, but it's just the type. So it's been a constant educating and raising their awareness for them to have an understanding, but it has been something that they've still been working with.
okay, great. So it sounds like you're working with them, because I know there's citizen committee, they seem confused. So good.
Yes, they are.
It
Then
might be, sorry, just 1 second, might be a good idea for Marshall to meet with their landscape committee, because that's the interface out to the residents.
I'll bring that up to him.
The room between the administration and the people out in their individual houses. You
Well,
might
Okay.
influence that
and the
more
committee
positively.
member I talked to was getting this from Marshall.
Oh,
So there's clearly some confusion.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll-
not sure
I'll
where.
just-
Um,
yeah, I'll let him know.
Yeah, and then the other thing I wanted to add, just for clarity, and it's too bad Don's not here because he could have, there's a significant difference between fire code and fire ordinances.
Yes.
So the fire code is something that the fire department proposes and that the town needs to adopt. And that has to do with building. And so the fire department can't legislate building, but fire ordinance. have to
Actually,
do-
that's not totally correct.
Okay, well, let me tell you what I think and then correct it.
Sure.
'Cause my understanding from Don was basically building stuff has to be adopted by the town. The ordinances, which are vegetation, are passed by the fire district and they don't come to the town for approval. I mean, other than that you can get input, but that goes through their board. And then please fill in if I've sort of messed it up.
No, you got most of that all correct. The only difference is, yes, there are certain parts of the building code and the fire code that run aligned with each other. But the town of Portola Valley, the building department, they do adopt their own building code, whereas the fire department adopts our own fire code. But there are portions within the building code that we also adopt within our fire code and things that we also enforce. So you were right for the most, and as far as the other ordinances, yes, that everything else is correct.
Okay, great. Yeah, and again, we don't have to deal with all 10. It was my understanding is that the town has to adopt building code, that's not something that comes from the fire. I mean, that they recommend it, but it needs to be adopted by effectively the council and therefore the
That is
town
correct.
to be applicable and enforceable. So just so everybody knows, what we talked about tonight was ordinances. And those, where your guys' feedback is going to be really critical, because it's going to be going to Don, let's make sure we get the wording right and there's not unintended consequences. And it's going to go to his board. It won't come to the council. There's not going to be a set of public hearings that go through the council. It's really going to be you guys and then public resident comments. So anyway,
That
thank
is
you.
correct. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Great. And we have more public comments. Excellent.
Hi, my name is Mary Jack. I'm in West Ridge Drive. And I want to thank the committee so much for advocating for habitat and for a balance between our safety and just the continued ultimate safety of our community, which is not letting things fall apart and grow back in a way that's less healthy than we first started. I think that was beautifully said earlier. The second is I think that somehow public information is going to be so crucial for this, for all the reasons we're talking about with sequoias, other things. Many people want a reason to clear, and they're going to use it to benefit that need. But more importantly, I don't think we want to scare people. So is there something we can do in town that puts out a very short bulletin, like 4 points, 3 points, 5 points, something? I don't know that it's this committee's group to do that. I just put it out there somehow to get public information, simply addressed, not confusing, but not generic, not just a little box drawing that comes, something that feels very Portola Valley, that might give an example of yes, this, no, like the what not to wear, kind of like that, like how to handle the look, the environment, what the ultimate goal is. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Well, and actually, the fire committee, tip of the month, so every month, whatever their proper name is.
Maybe we could share another link to the understory and defense. of the
The
Space document.
understory,
Exactly.
Yeah, fill
On
that out
our,
again.
on our webpage, there is
That's a great idea.
that
Yeah.
already done it. Diagrams and things that we worked on.
Yeah, we could build on the understory and some, it's such a
And even
nice
just
document.
reminding people that it exists.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Pretty extensive.
Yes, we agree.
try.
It has its place, yes.
Kim, I don't know if you were able to hear that the public comment was requesting photos of examples of good defensible space. I think that is one thing that's very hard to come by, is photographic examples as opposed to little cartoon diagrams. And I wonder if that's something that we could collaborate on as these inspections are going on, if there are folks in town who would be willing to share photographs of their compliant yards. That would be a great.
I could
way
share
to-
some. Dawn thought my backyard is fabulously safe, or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, I would love to help put that together as well. I have been actually working, now that we're starting to do the inspections, working on actually doing like pictographs type of education for people that just gives you clear indication of the yeses and nos, and kind of what you were just saying, I think it was Mary, that the what not to wear, but something similar, but what to do. And what I would love is, once I do get it completed, is to send it all your way, just to get your feedback and see what you think about it before it actually gets put out. I don't think it's going to be something that will be able to get out immediately, like it probably not even, maybe not even this season, because we've sent most of our mailers out already. But I'm going to try and put it out on social media, post it on our website, and with as many emails that we already have on file, I'm really trying to put together a distribution list of emails of all the residents as we do inspections, to try to get that communication so we can email blast a lot of information to people. I feel like that would help a lot with communication too. Even if people have questions, they can always a lot of people, they won't reach out to us right away, but sometimes I feel if we can start the conversation with them of sending an email, it makes it a little bit more inviting for them to respond and have questions for us. So it is something that is on my radar to try and get done and out there for people.
Well, and we could, you know, the subcommittee that we put together to look at this could probably help you with that too, and give you feedback and
Okay.
move it along. You remember who it was?
No, it was Nikki.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. This was really a great opportunity to talk with you.
Oh,
and
thank
hear your
you.
Perspective. So, thanks again.
Oh, my pleasure. It was actually kind of nice that Dawn couldn't make it, gave me the opportunity to meet all of you. I'm sure I will be working with all of you very much so in the future, moving on as Dawn's getting close to his retirement time. So he won't be around much
Okay.
longer. So thank you very much for inviting me. Look forward to going to another meeting. And I will send this information and address these questions you all had and get that all sent back to you so that you can discuss it within your committee.
Perfect.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, good night.
So we need to put together a subcommittee then for this. We had formed a
Yeah,
subcommittee
there was,
previously.
do
Do we have one?
was it Mary
I'm on it.
Mona and Megan, right?
Oh, good. Okay, I want to be on it. You know what would be helpful when we put subcommittees together, if one person takes the lead, because otherwise we all wait for each other.
Yeah.
So- Yeah. So who is leading that thing? Good, great. Yeah, yeah, that would be good. Yeah, that's perfect.
And so when I receive the comment, the stuff that she'd like us to comment on, I'll send it to you for sure.
No, send it to everybody.
Send it to
Send it to
everybody.
everybody as quickly as possible. And also that we see her email address, forward it so that we see her email address.
Good idea.
So in the minutes last time, it says Subcommittee of Richards, Chiarello, and Plunder was formed. The committee approved the motion of this subcommittee develop a proposal capturing the conservation
Right.
perspective
I remember.
that will be presented to the town in Debola.
Good. And now Mona is leading.
It was always good to have a leader.
Maybe we should start including, as part of our
Kim?
ritual, when we go through the minutes, a little very brief follow-up for the things that are on there uniquely that
Yeah.
aren't included in the regular, et cetera.
Yeah, actually, because I knew I had signed up for something, but I didn't remember what it was.
Those to make yourself a little nut.
Yeah, it didn't help. Couldn't read it.
I think I did send out.
You did?
We did. Follow-up of exactly.
Oh,
what
I
needed
thought
to
it
be
was on the
done this month.
cameras. Okay, maybe I just misunderstood.
Action item.
Yeah, yeah, an action item.
Okay. That's what we need. Perfect.
Okay, good. Now we can move on to the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, we haven't even approved the minutes.
Yes, let's approve the minutes. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve them as written. They were good minutes.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Okay. Site visits. There's a brand new one, which is 880 West Ridge, which I believe Megan is gonna lead and that will start next week.
That's the Lane property.
I
Oh, right.
thought so. It turns out because it's not a new, it had been looked at before by a subcommittee.
Yeah,
So
yes.
I
yes.
thought that our usual procedure, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
understand.
was sold. But
Are they-
Yeah.
I know it's been sold. I know it's been sold and it's a
Again.
new owner. Yes, no.
So why
Okay.
don't the subcommittee, because this was quite intense.
We did.
Yeah, I was too, yeah. But
They should be in.
I think the idea is
Well,
not
they're
so
not
much.
in the box any, they're not using the box anymore yet. During, yeah, yeah.
I think the reason we do that is not so much because the people are familiar with the report they wrote, but they're familiar with the land.
Yes.
So it's
yeah,
not that
yeah.
they need to know what the previous plan was. It's
Right.
irrelevant. It's that, unless it's the same owner, it's that they walked the property and they talked about the property.
So
Right, so
that
that makes
property
sense.
has a conservation easement. on it,
Yes.
To make
Right.
sure that you, right. So we have the conservation. And do you have the report from the Open Space Committee when it was reviewed? It was a few years ago, but
do we have that? I don't think so. I don't think. Yeah, I don't remember. Can you send that? to
yeah,
our
I can
subcommittee?
send you that.
I have a copy of the conservation easement that you made us aware of previously.
Right.
And I sent an email out to the committee, except just stating that. And I looked and I actually have it still, so. But I do not have the open
So-
space part. no.
I think this is either not enforced or not well known, but technically there's a requirement that conservation easements are supposed to be reviewed every year by the town. And so it has been done on occasion for 880 Westridge, but it's been some years.
What do you mean reviewed?
Just to make sure it's in compliance.
Oh, okay.
By whom?
Check.
Reviewed by whom?
Well, the last time was by Open Space Committee. I think the town assigned it to the Open Space Committee.
Would it be wise, maybe for Conservation Committee jointly with Open Space to write a letter to the council reminding them that that's supposed to be done and somehow taking it on so it's on, that we have the calendar and remember it? Is that, I mean, ideally, in theory, the council's, the town's supposed to be doing it, but the operative arm for those things would be, Open Space or us or jointly.
Jointly.
Yeah, it's too
And,
bad Craig left because he was on the subcommittee that did that property one. He was on it.
Right, I think
That's a
that's
good
a good
idea.
idea for us to do, to just establish a procedure. And then we'll have to, somebody will have to put on their calendar, maybe the chairs of the people.
So
Get it on their calendar and just
Judy, do you
that.
remember though, when we had this discussion, it started because of this property. And we asked, where are these easements? Who's keeping track of them? How many of them are there? And there was no central
Right, they don't
repository.
know.
Nobody knows.
They don't know.
Right, so
But
that makes
as
it,
we learn about them, we can start
build
that
on it.
list and do our jobs. So knowing that they're out there somewhere, ones who are not doing it, we can only do what we can do, but to put off doing anything because we don't know about all of them seems to be remiss.
Does El Mirador have a conservation easement? Does anybody know that? Because that would be interesting as the guy died. Yeah. You don't think so? Okay. Oh. Actually, let's put a review of the charter on the agenda. That's a really good point. We just did that at the EPC. It was very useful. Yeah.
So is this the committee charter?
Yeah. Review of committee charter.
Yes.
So, Mary, what's happening at the town level to get that information into some usable, A, get the information, and B, into some usable form? How does one, other than going down to the county and looking at everybody's deed, which is an impossible task? Although I think it would be a good task for a summer intern. You know, you can get really these extraordinarily talented environmental studies people. You know, the staff shouldn't be doing it, but a committee can't handle that either, but an intern, if our committee or Open Space could get an intern to work on that, it would be, they could pound that out in a summer.
There might also be some people who know some of things. Maybe Nancy Lund knows something, maybe, what's his name on your committee? Gary.
And individual property owners might know and be willing to fess up. Some of them know and, you know, don't want anybody to know, but some of them know and are proud of it and would be happy to add their names to the list. So we might start with just, you know, doing an inquiry. Oh, so somebody's working on it. The trails easements. Yes, not all easements, but trail easements.
How are they doing it?
How are they getting
doing
them?
it?
But where's
But
he
is
Where are
finding
they
the
getting
info?
the information? Are
Is he
they actually
getting-
going?
So when they have a finite task, because they know exactly where the trails are, rather if those of us who are, you know, if you're starting out to look for the others, it's, you know, potentially every property in town that's of any size, yeah.
So some parcel maps show that, and you can just do that online, but do you?
Maybe ChatGPT helps us with that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
I think this is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it makes sense for it to be in our, but if you put it there, it'll at least put it on the table. What is the summary?
Nothing.
Well, some of them do. Brandy would know. She was the one who was hired, her, you know, her intern. We've had a couple of interns that have been very good. I mean, they really
Guys, this
produce.
is not on the agenda, and
Yeah, but I think
it's,
that it might,
it's not that it's important, not important, I'm sorry, it's just.
we need to make a subcommittee to get our arms around how we want to deal with it. So I think.
What are we calling this subcommittee?
Conservation easement. Identification.
Okay, I'll work on it.
Okay.
Who else?
Well, okay, yeah. So this started with 880.
So you need to be on that committee. Obviously. You're open space.
Okay, and we have a new chair, our next committee meeting is next week.
Yeah, but the person is not on the committee.
Yeah, okay.
1, 2.
Yeah. Sorry, can you please, just I can't keep up. So
You're talking
who
about
is
the
on
880
sub-
committee.
Yeah,
We're just
I
deciding.
know, I'm trying to understand.
880.
880
Who was
is,
it
that is
before?
Paul, me, and it's as it always
Peter.
was.
Peter, Paul, Mary
Right,
Ann,
there are
and
four.
Liz.
4 of us.
That's 4.
Yeah, that's fine.
Good.
Nothing wrong with 4. Yeah.
Perfect.
And who is in charge of who is going to call? You, good, okay, yeah, that's how I remember it.
Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Sorry, can we
Okay.
get back to the subcommittee, because I did not capture who was
So
saying
We
it.
didn't get that far.
We are not there yet.
Okay, sorry. I just
So
didn't
we,
wanna
we were,
miss it.
we're suggesting Nona and me.
I'm happy to.
No,
work on
I'm
it.
looking at, because we might need also somebody who is really, I mean, I'm gonna learn Chat GPT, but I haven't learned it yet, okay?
Is
And
this a
you are
subcommittee
very-
to come up with a way to get the information?
We
or
might
is-
have to look at the curves and stuff, computer stuff.
I don't see us, I mean, I feel like maybe as a first pass, it should be, maybe we don't even need a subcommittee yet. It could be one person thinking about it in detail and coming to
Oh,
the meeting next month.
I'm not that detailed thinker.
Put on the
I'll tell you
agenda
what,
for next,
I will bring
meeting.
it up with Open Space Committee if that's okay. Since it used to be their responsibility and they actually rewritten the charter, to not have it in there anymore. So, we should probably find out what.
Okay.
Okay, it
Well,
goes on the,
wasn't
it goes on the agenda.
explicitly in
Okay.
there, But it was sort of.
Putting on
a
the
bigger path.
agenda.
And we can think about it.
Everybody can think about it.
Yeah, everybody
in the
should
course
think
of the
about it.
next month.
Okay,
Right from it.
I
And
was,
maybe one person could do what, how we approach it or what, just so we have a basis of something. Just
Well-
the discussion.
Waiting what Mona will say.
I'll have something written for the next meeting, but it might be more about, what's required and what.
Yeah,
Open
that's-
Space
that would be
is
good.
gonna look at.
that's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
And is there someone who could talk to the person on trails who's doing this kind of work already to find out
A young person.
exactly?
Well, I'm wondering if it's Dave Evans. Does anybody know?
He's not on Teams.
He's not on trails, but he made the new trail map and he's my neighbor.
I didn't go to the last one, but there's been a lot of discussion at the various meetings about this, and it gets very circular, very fast, because there is no simple way. And it's very political, and it's also, there are legal ramifications as well. So that's, and none of that is bad, it's just,
He's my next door neighbor.
Oh,
I
great.
know him.
Okay. Yeah, right. Okay, so we know what we're doing. Okay,
did we skip,
No, we're not there
28
yet.
Westridge?
no, we
That's-
have not.
I just got that.
So I was confused
With
like
880.
earlier this week. 228 Westridge, I got confused with 880 because they're both re-reviewed. 228 Westridge, remember that one where they planted some redwood trees? This was done in maybe 2019 or something. They planted, this is,
Conservation said they were on the plan. Conservation
I
said no.
do you remember that?
Then ASCC said no.
Oh,
Then they
down,
went back.
down. They're dying. Yeah, they're dying anyway.
Yeah, I think there, so some,
They have a new plan.
they submitted a new plan and they want a representative from conservation and from ASCC. Okay,
I think you and I had, I said I would do that. Communicated with Laura Lowe. Town, don't know in the meeting.
excellent.
So are you
Okay.
still talking about those four little
Yes.
red images? Is that even worth our time?
It's not just those.
Okay,
Those have been definitively dealt with. That's
okay,
done.
okay.
And they're done.
Well, they're dying, so
Surprise.
yeah, talk about it,
However, Dina has one very near there that is driving, so
because it's a little bit lower.
anyway, we don't even.
Doesn't matter.
Good, okay, good. Yeah.
Elevation. These were
Elevation.
Okay,
too big, these trees were too big to begin with. You know, when there is no financial limit, then people think when they get the big box, 40 gallons or whatever, they're way ahead. The 1 gallon can will always outperform any other.
Absolutely.
We tell them that.
We
tell
say that
everybody
every
that on our
time.
site report.
okay. So, we've got, we know what we're doing on 228 Westridge, 50/50 Alpine is done, sent the comments to town. So let's move on to old business and oversight of town-owned properties. Frog Pond was first, that was, I think a proposal for a workday before the chipping was.
Yeah, that
think we had suggested
overall didn't happen, won't happen. And it's done now next weekend, plus we only had a 2 week lead time, the tripper they were very early and then there were concerns. with some of the young birds and nesting and everything, so I'll coordinate with Dana, probably for the fourth.
Yeah, well, makes sense.
Chipper Day?
In that September, it's next week already. Tripper.
I understand
Yeah,
that. I'm saying when you.
Yeah,
start
then
it
we'll
now,
do
you're
the
you're
next
putting
one.
it off for-
Excellent. Spring down?
Spring down, Dieter and I walked Spring down on the weekend and sent instructions for Go Native for what to do this week. One of the things that I was wondering about, I wanted to ask everybody about was, we're going to do the budget and talk again about the camera. You have a webcam that people pay attention to. There's something that's happening or someone has edited it. So if you get a webcam and get it set up and get everything, and it's focused on the pond, where 98% of the time, there's nothing going
Nothing
on.
happening.
And 5 months, 6 months of the year, it's just a dry patch of dirt. I don't know if that's gonna be very appealing to people, whether people are really gonna go find it and look at it. So I wonder whether it's a lovely idea. I want people to thought it was a great idea, but as I think more about it, I have some thoughts, unless somebody could dedicate their time to, editing and put the cool stuff that happens on a loop so that when you look at it, you're always seeing Egret and the little guy.
Well, so,
But
yeah, I
it
think
becomes
that
very
brings-
labor intensive.
It is, and I spent some time, I talked to Trevor Hebert at Jasper Ridge. And in order to do a live camera with a halfway decent resolution, we have to have Wi-Fi. We can't do it over the LTE. And if we were to do a low resolution, the first thing that we would get is complaints that it's not high enough resolution. So, I think the power is probably okay, but we would absolutely have to have a good solid Wi-Fi connection. And, it does bring up that, what are we looking for? What is it that we actually want to do? Is it to see what's, it's not gonna have enough resolution to see things that are just spontaneously there.
What makes it suggest is to have a webcam somewhere, and 99% of the time there's nothing there, because they're doing research. So the 1% that wanders by is very interesting in its data.
Well,
For
and those
us,
are motion
us,
activated.
Yeah,
A live stream is really
Right.
different.
right. You can have emotion activated, but then, when
By the
you go on
But
and
that
look,
is very
if there's
narrow,
nothing
yeah.
happening, you have the skill of the last thing that happened.
So maybe this is not practical.
I think that's.
What? Oh, we don't know.
Right, right.
And it'll be interesting for that time of the year, those months when they're nesting and then the rest of the time. wouldn't be.
The nesting owls and rest is May, June, July.
We'll look for them. There are a couple, there's a webcam about the eagles and, in Camping Berkeley or something. It's fascinating for a couple of months and then it's down, it's not even there, they take it down.
And they're able to get close enough.
Yeah, they
so
got
that
it
they can
inside
see
the
it at really
box.
high resolution. So that's the thing that.
Maybe
Well,
it's a good idea, but.
That we, abandon ship.
I'll
Yep.
second.
I think we just table it
We'll
until
table it.
technology gets better.
For later consideration.
For Alice moving.
Yeah, and that's the end. of
Actually,
Spring
known
Valley.
as mountain lions are cool. Yeah.
Probably do.
Okay, are there any updates on Town Center?
No changes. I'm going to try to get a meeting with the Go Native folks to get a better understanding of the maintenance pattern that they're doing. And we also learned from Howard that he does have the PDF of the original planting plan by Let's Go. So I am emailing with him to get access to that.
Yeah, he has it in PDF form, so. Okay,
Megan, am I still on that subcommittee? Who's your subcommittee for Town Center?
Nona and Catherine.
Couple comments, and one is I'm looking all around it just because I was there for the fact. And I walked for other reasons up in the redwoods and there are thistles coming up in the redwood belt where I think it's just dust mostly. Yeah, there's a couple of very obvious paths of use across some of these beds where we have rejuvenated the beds a couple of years ago. The one I mostly noticed was just on the lawn side of the community hall. There's some set up there, so, and everybody was just walking across the bed, and there's a definite path for them to walk across. And just a couple of years ago, we planted that with iris. So I think we need to sort of rethink where the paths go and, just let those paths be paths, and I don't know whether we mark them somehow or gravel them somehow, but we certainly shouldn't plant it, but we've tried.
yeah,
It hasn't worked.
maybe. Okay, now back on to the budget, which is attached to the minute. And there's nothing any different than we talked about last month, other than the webcam. Was able to connect with Cindy Rodas, who's the budget, and so she sent me the budget from last year, which is, I did not have last month. So the adopted budget, which she said that we haven't spent any of it, so. So
Well, then we could hire an intern. Between now and June 30th. Well, we'll send them to the tax department and look at every tax thing. If you have an easement, it's in the tax. Of course it is. It's a, well, if you have a conservation easement, you have a tax break. No? Oh. Oh. Okay, so the person could look at all the deeds.
So even though we don't have it fleshed out yet, might we put in here a line, because in the next couple of months, we can flesh. Yeah, can we put in a line about
So I guess
about it.
we can certainly put it in. I guess I don't know how to.
They quite readily take things out. Don't worry about it.
That's what, I mean, how much money should we?
Well, yeah, and I'm not sure. I mean, often they work for nothing, so I would think,
Yeah.
$500 a month times 3 months is 1,500.
Or make it 2,000.
Take off the webcam.
Okay. We're still so underspent. It's kinda
Yeah, I
crazy.
think the town has requirements if you actually
know they
hire
do.
someone.
I know, but
you have to
I'll
pay
talk to-
rate
I'll
and
talk to
things.
Brandon.
Okay, so this budget doesn't actually have to be submitted until the 12th. But
Of
May. So we won't have time to bring it back to this committee, but we can fiddle, yeah, we can just put in.
And then it
2,500,
gets
they can take
presented
it.
to them and at the time it comes up, we can just say we want to remove line 10.
Perfect. Done.
I might just mention that I suggested, I think, to Catherine, to Jennifer Hammer, and to Terry Lee, who are the chairs of the two committees, that every committee in town should get an intern, that should be a budgetary priority for the town as a whole, because everybody has stuff like this to do. And not every chair agrees with that idea. So I don't think.
We will
that's
lead the way.
outside.
show
Well,
how
we'll lead the
valuable it
way.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Exactly.
We are progressive.
There's more for us. Okay, so I don't think we need to do anything more formal for this budget because we've already,
We need to approve it.
okay, let's do
Again,
that formally.
Well, so can I just clarify, you said you were removing the streaming webcam down to
2,000 for an intern.
2,000, okay.
Great. Would
So
anybody
I
like
move
to?
we approve the budget as revised.
It is going to be.
1,200 more. It's 1,200 more. If we take off 800 and we add 2,000,
All right, let's move. Let's keep moving. Okay, great.
where are we?
Do we have any follow-up from the wildfire preparedness fair?
Oh.
I think there was a number of us that were there.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone who showed up and helped and did it.
We have the most beautiful table.
Thank you. to people who got the flowers. That's always just the bomb of the exhibit.
People love it. They just, yeah.
Was there a good turnout for the event?
My impression is it wasn't as good as last year, but I don't know what the official total is.
350. Well, that's not a lot of people.
We get 12 when we put on a lecture. I think it's very good.
I had a question. Who found the French cups with the pink fringes?
Oh, who found the French cups?
Mhm.
I brought her girl. I didn't have any French cups.
Well, I haven't done, they go all on the street. They just,
And I know a place out in the wilderness, but they're always green. Never, this was gorgeous.
And I didn't even say.
I'd like to creep
Okay.
too.
Okay, regarding Public Works, I gave him, I forwarded him all of the trail maintenance and requests on, the town-owned property. And he's gonna fold those into his budget, so that's That's it. I don't know of anything else.
Did you ask Howard to come to one of our meetings?
I will.
Oh, you
I-
didn't?
Yeah, I haven't yet, but I will definitely ask him. I wanted.
I think he will need more notice.
Okay.
If you invite him and then he will come as he sees, you might, don't have the expectations that he can come right away.
I will invite him.
Invite
Tomorrow.
him.
Get more accommodating for him when we had a Tuesday meeting. him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another option.
So I don't know how many of the people on the committee that would mean they couldn't come.
Friday, can we make it on Friday?
Consider. So when you talk to him, just ask him if there's, unless, you know, you were,
It's possible that I could come.
are there some days that are
Fridays are probably.
Great.
Yeah, they like it there.
Okay. Let's see what we can do on that. Is there anything from the open space committee?
You need. We haven't met for quite a while. So, it's been changed from Ferry Lee to Tushin Sasuga.
And wildlife preparedness committee. Oh, everything was prepared. So, okay. And Teresa, is there anything from trails?
I didn't. There's nothing on it. I should point out that, at the last wildfire preparedness committee meeting, Stanford Wildfire Management Plan. And I didn't attend that meeting. If anybody's interested in it, there's a recording.
Is it their whole thing or is it for the road?
Oh, it's the whole thing.
Oh.
It's
Could you
published
send us the
online.
link? Could
It's
you email us
published.
the link?
Yeah, but the report is also published, so anyone, you can just read it online too.
Under, wait,
I'll send the link.
No, he was speaking there. I don't know. How long is this? Kudos.
I would love to be able to do that, but that's gonna be tough.
You can't really have grasses from 0%. It's a fire hazard.
But I think,
Are you talking zone 0 to 5?
no,
No, okay, okay.
right.
But I can agree with you. If they come out to our property and ask us to mow and grass again in the next few weeks, I'm gonna be
I would be
disappointed.
upset too.
wanna
Yeah,
have
that's a very good point. Mary.
Right.
Yeah, yep, yep.
I think it would be asking too much for them to distinguish between native and non-native, but I think you could absolutely expect that if you give them a list of the 4 or 5 ones that are common in town that we see that you care about protecting, they could learn those 4 or 5.
I think
Yeah.
it depends what we try at the ranches that you can flag them. So it's because the crews that come in, they're always different people, so they will not distinguish those.
Yeah.
Whoever has interest have to go out and mark little islands and then they go around.
That's why I do my own weed whacking. Exactly for that reason. That's an interesting.
But some of this wax happens before everything is dyed. The whole point is to do it before it's all
Yeah.
brown and so flammable. Okay. I think we can do kudos. Do we have any kudos for this month?
Not really.
Okay.
We'll pass in the kudos.
Okay, tip of the month, I am gonna do the, book- bookmark one. And for what's blooming now, I plan to do another set of wildflower, ones, the later spring ones. That'll be done. Put backyard habitat as a placeholder. I don't think we have anything going. If it should come on.
No, leave it, leave it.
Okay. At some point, we
It
do
will
need
happen.
To have a discussion about. I'd like to see. it.
Combine it with the fire safe.
That's a really
What a
good
bad idea.
idea.
It addressed perennial grasslands.
Yeah.
That's a super idea.
And that way it would be sort of
Ah.
sanctioned.
Yes,
Fine.
yes. For what?
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
For what?
We have on,
Howard.
No, we don't
we have on
do
purpose-
kudos for persons. We
on
don't do
purpose.
names. It's always. Mm-mm.
No, we did that on purpose because.
We did it on purpose.
Because, we call out,
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, and as far as the consolidated plant lists go, I think we're still waiting for final PC.
We still have some final PC, some final editing.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. I've been correcting formulas and making the sheets match up. Trying to get onto Zoom, and it's locked me out, so that won't happen tonight. But wanted to confirm what our next, what does everyone need to see again? We did make a few tweaks where we had, for example, Arctostaphylos on shrubs and ground cover, and the descriptions weren't consistent. We found a couple of discouraged plants that were, velocity privet, that was included. We added that. And it's been months, so there were a few minor additions, but what kind of additional review do people need before we?
Maybe it's
approve it?
ready.
It's
I
very
have the
close.
feeling that we basically said we talked this through, we've done this. We need to come into the final format for formal approval, but I don't think
Okay, so people don't need to see it again for review and.
For not for the editing. Unless there's something.
No, no,
glaring.
no. Okay, well, it's all minor edits. We just need to find a way to wrap those up and then we'll be ready for hopefully fingers crossed next month.
And that was the last
Adjourns the
item
meeting.
on the agenda, besides adjournment. Oh, Dina, do you have a question?
So you can adjourn, but I'd like to make a brief comment on where the wildflowers are stupendous right now. Locally, first of all, we were down at Curry's Plain, Shell Creek Road. Particularly Shell Creek is a central coast inland. Fantastic, absolutely stupendous. And then locally, just a few miles from here, on either side of 280, near Farm Hill. You go first to the Farm Hill side. Quickly after you get off the freeway, take the second driveway. You can park there by the baseball field. And go through somebody cut a hole in the cyclone fence and yes, yes.
Park at the sports field on the right-hand side.
At the baseball field. Anyway, and then you just go up to the stop sign at stoplight at Canada. Go down, go north again, go south again, to Woodside Road, go out to Kite Hill Road. Yeah. Oh, it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And if you keep your eyes open in the area where fairly up high, where the serpentine rocks are, just about all that there is the Louisiana, the river, Fiddle, gorgeous, just gorgeous in the fall.
At what time does Jasper Ridge bloom?
It's doing it,
Could
yeah.
somebody do a tour? I've never in my life been there.
Are we
Yeah, we're
adjourned?
done, we're done.
So we
Yes,
can-
we are adjourned.
We can turn on
turn
Zoom.
off. Okay.